Did you know that breathing happens automatically? And it comes from some of the oldest parts of our brain. But we also know that breathing is profoundly affected by both our behavior and our emotions. You see, this gives us an indication, and the latest research shows us that it's also linked to our cortical or our thinking brain as well. So if we better understand what's happening in our body and in our brain, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve in such a short amount of time. Understanding what's happening is very important when we're mastering the breath, and this lesson is called Uber drivers. You see, once we take a breath, many things are happening without us even knowing. Firstly, as you breathe in, we're breathing in oxygen. And as we exhale, we're breathing out carbon dioxide that your cells have produced doing work inside the body. Mainly that's muscle cells contracting, brain cells thinking, gut cells secreting, and all of this takes energy. One of the fuels for the body, of course, is oxygen. And it's distributed around the body by our blood vessels. And we're going to think about your blood vessels as a highway, and oxygen and carbon dioxide as passengers getting driven around your body by the body's Uber drivers. Still sounds weird, is weird, but please stay with me. So your blood vessels are the highways that oxygen travels on to get to where they need to go. Starting in the lungs when you breathe in, the oxygen lands in your lungs or the airport and grabs the Uber from the airport, and it's delivered to all parts of the bodies, like to your brain, which uses 21% of the body's oxygen, and also to the breathing muscles. Yeah, the breathing muscles, the diaphragm and the accessory muscles, they contract to bring air into your lungs, and they can use up to 10% of the total energy requirements of the body when we're exercising. These Ubers, which carry the oxygen carbon dioxide passengers, traveling on your blood vessel highways, they're actually called hemoglobin. And they're designed to carry only 4 passengers at any one time. Each hemoglobin molecule can carry a maximum of 4 oxygen molecules at any one time. And that's an important thing to remember for later. So these oxygens, they're the passengers in the cars. Again, this might seem weird, but it's a very important detail to understand. When the Ubers arrive at the airport, in the lungs, they pick up their 4 oxygen passengers and take them to the tissues where they're needed. In this case, we'll use a cyclist's leg muscle as an example. So the car with the 4 passengers arrives at the leg muscle to drop off the oxygen. Once they've dropped off, they pick up the carbon dioxide passengers. These carbon dioxide passengers have been produced by the leg muscle and the cyclist, and the Uber will drive this carbon dioxide back to the airport or the lungs and drop it off so we can exhale this gas. So just to recap before we dig a little, our lungs are the airport. As we breathe in oxygen, these 4 molecules cross our lung barrier, get picked up by our Uber drivers. These Uber drivers drive along our blood vessels to the tissues that need the oxygen the most and drop the passengers off. Once the vehicle's free, carbon dioxide passengers are picked up at the tissues, which of course they get driven back to the lungs to be dropped off and catch a flight at the airport as we breathe out to exhale the carbon dioxide. So let's use this analogy to understand a few key concepts. So number 1, what happens when we hold our breath? So when we're holding our breath, there's no oxygen entering the lungs. So our Uber drivers are getting no new passengers to pick up at the airport. Oxygen is not getting delivered because we're not breathing. And over time, actually beyond about 2 minutes in a relaxed state, we start to see empty oxygen seats in our Uber drivers. We're running out of oxygen. So in a relaxed state, we have plenty of oxygen. And after a while, we start to see less oxygen passengers. There becomes some empty seats in our Uber drivers. And you can measure this with a pulse oximeter, which measures oxygen saturation, or how many of those seats are occupied in the Uber drivers. So the body has no new oxygen to pick up and keeps producing carbon dioxide. And as a result, our Uber drivers are picking up dropping off a lot of carbon dioxide passengers at the airport waiting for their flight to depart. But we're holding our breath. No one is taking off, and the airport's getting busy with passengers wanting to take off. And this is one of the biggest stresses to the body, the buildup of carbon dioxide at your lung airport. This is what hurts when you hold your breath, the buildup of carbon dioxide. It's not reduced oxygen, it's a sensitivity to carbon dioxide. And if you have a sensitivity, it can be damaging to your health and your performance. Let's look at a second example, overbreathing. Mostly never a good thing. You see, it costs the body energy to breathe, and we don't want to waste energy. But it also affects our blood. Yeah, breathing differently can change your blood in as little as 2 breaths. So overbreathing, what happens there is we're dropping off lots of carbon dioxide passengers at the airport. We are now low on carbon dioxide because we keep breathing, and these carbon dioxide passengers are leaving our lungs. And it has many effects. One of the main ones is feeling lightheaded, muscle cramping. But used correctly, it can produce a profound effect, right? But if we're talking physiologically to manage our health and improve our performance, we're generally trying to slow our breathing to match our effort. Let's not let the breath get out of control. So developing some tolerance to carbon dioxide will help you reduce the risk of overbreathing. And it is vitally important that you have a comprehensive program that covers all of your needs. You need to be comfortable with this build-up of carbon dioxide passengers at the airport. And with gradual exposure and education, you will become more comfortable with it, and it can change your life. So in summary, our breathing system can be thought of oxygen and carbon dioxide getting picked up by our Uber drivers at the airport and getting dropped off at their destinations. We're aiming to create a balanced system. So our flight arrives on time, we get immediately picked up by our Uber driver, we get dropped off without the chit chat and terrible driving, and our creepy uncles, they can be the carbon dioxide molecules, they're removed from our house and from the tissues, and they can catch their flight on time, leaving our lungs. So I told you it was weird. Thanks for listening.